Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play-to-earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And today was a momentous day for Splinterlands. It was the first ever day one of Splinter Fest here in Las Vegas at the Luxor Hotel at the HyperX Arena. And there was a ton of alpha and great news and details unveiled to all that attended. And if you weren't in attendance physically at Splinter Fest today, it's okay. We actually have a number of details that we can share with the community here as a summary. And we just finished streaming on Splinterlands TV on Twitch, where we covered this topic. So without further ado, let's roll the clip. But let's talk a little bit about Splinterfest, because there's so much to cover here. And where do we start? Let's start here. So this is one of the earlier panels that happened during day one of Splinterfest, and it was Genesis League Soccer. We got to see some card images of the cards, the front and the back, some of the attributes like the equipment upgrades, the skills, the stats, and we learned that it's going to be mobile. Well, we learned that tower defense was going to be mobile enabled. I don't know how mobile enabled Genesis League Soccer will be, honestly. We'll have to see. I know they pictured on a mobile device here. We'll have to see what that looks like. Yeah, I mean, here, I gotta be honest, I'm not super impressed with the card design. Like, if you compare it to So Rare or STG Football, I think those designs look a little bit nicer. So, I mean, this is what it is. I guess this is what we'll get for the first edition. It's not terrible. I just think it's kind of plain with that kind of blue background. But, you know, this is what we're going to get. It's a deck building game. It's multiple actions, multiple turns. So there's going to be some interaction and responsiveness to your actions that take place. And there's going to be upgradability via slots that essentially stacks the NFTs. And you can, when you sell the cards, if you want to, for example, you can sell it with all the upgrades intact, or I think they said you could actually pull the skills off the cards and use them on other cards. They talked about coach cards, they talked about stadiums in the future. So lots of good information here. And then let's see, you can see some more of the, I guess, some sample images of player images that they will be, you know, working with. And you can see the different background colors, the card details here for the front of the cards here, which was shared. And the white paper's coming, I believe, this next week. So we'll learn more here. Now, this was another interesting thing that I would not have expected to see at Splinterfest is, you know, Nate was talking to Todd McFarlane about the potential of bringing Spawn IP and flavors into the game of Splinterlands. Now, it's not going to happen at this point. Nothing's been approved or signed or anything like that, but they were just talking about the idea. And here's what I think is very interesting is, you know, we're talking to big companies, big brands, big organizations. Like Todd McFarlane and Spawn is not a small, you know, IP necessarily. So, you know, we're at the seat of the table with companies that are legitimate, right? Warner Music, MLSPA, you know, Todd McFarlane, all these other groups, and they're entertaining these conversations because, well, Splinterlands has a good product, and that bodes well for future potential partnerships and collaborations and sponsorships and other things potentially in the game. So I thought the art here was amazing that they did to pitch to Todd McFarlane the Spawn Splinterlands kind of fantasy version. And there's another version here with concepts and ideas about a dark mage spawn. So these are pretty amazing art, that concept art that was developed here for this pitch to Todd McFarlane. So kudos to Nate and the dev team for getting this done and having that conversation, and hopefully, something comes out of it. That would be amazing if we're able to, do some interesting things with IP in the game and do some cross-pollination again, because, maybe there's some Todd McFarlane or Spawn fans out there that have never heard of Splinterlands, and then we bring these characters into the game and then all of a sudden get another audience that's interested in seeing what this is all about. So great stuff. I mean, great looking art. It's amazing kind of what Nate's team has been able to do across all these different projects. It's pretty crazy. We'll see some more designs here in just a little bit. So just some amazing stuff there. Here we already are seeing new Rebellion card designs. Chaos Legion has 5 million packs still to go, roughly. We've got Rift Watchers, about more than 2 million packs there to go. But they've already got the card design done for Rebellion, or at least prototyped, as well as a number of card stats and card names and lore. This is incredible how fast things are moving. That's amazing, honestly. It's kind of scary again that they could be this so far ahead of the game. Rebellion's probably at least 6 to 9 months away. And here we are. They pretty much already have it probably, I don't know, maybe 40% or more done at this point from a set perspective, which is crazy. They've got a more art-focused design, so they're minimizing the borders. They've got different archery and magic and armor stats icons. They've got different rarity icons, trying to reduce the color dependencies. They've got an XP bar. So lots of interesting stuff here. UX concepts being used here. I think the feedback on the Mav chat was that the gold foil versions were, because of the minimalistic design, was not enough gold on the gold foil versions. So I probably think they take that feedback and revisit that. But this is pretty exciting. You can see here some of the stats. This is the Kazai Falconer here, a 2 mana, 2 archery camouflage card for fire. You've got the Silver Blade Fighter, a 4 mana life card with 5 speed, dodge, double strike, retaliate, and 3 melee damage. It's got minimal shield and medium health. But for 4 mana, it could be a very interesting melee-based tank/attack card for low mana. Little League battles, for example. Very interesting card. And then we've got skins here, right? So this was interesting. These are some more card stats for the Croyer, Nomos, and Executioner Kron, which is not to be confused with Kron the Undying with an O. So that's interesting, the choice of that naming. But you can see here, you've got a Earth card and Croyer, you've got a Fire card and Nomos, and then you've got a Death card and Executioner Kron with different preliminary stats, obviously subject to change. But they've already got, we've already seen like a half dozen cards from Rebellion here kind of unveiled in a playtest phase, which is pretty crazy. You can see some of the things here. You've got 3 melee damage with opportunity and poison at 5 mana. So it's kind of like for Earth, a Serpentine Spy for Earth, which is good for Modern. If you didn't, as obviously Serpentine Spy for Untamed is very expensive. And then you've got Nomos here with Snipe and Blast, and 4 magic damage. So it's a Blast magic damage Snipe card, which is pretty crazy. Fire is looking pretty strong for magic, honestly, I will say. And then you got Executioner Kron here, which is a 6 melee damage life leech card. So this card can definitely spiral out of control, a la Jared Scar, a la Grum here. It's got immunity, giant killer, death blow, and it's kind of like, I don't know, similar stats to Forgotten One, but for death. So it's not exactly the same. It's got giant killer and life leech. But yeah, you could see it, some similarities there between Forgotten One and Executioner Kron as an example. And let's see. So just take a look here. Note the images. I'm going to show you here. So here's the gold foil borders. This is where some of the feedback, I think, in Mav chat, people weren't necessarily down with this. They didn't see there was enough gold. I think there's a decent amount of gold foil. You can definitely tell the difference in a gold foil version and a non-version here, right? Between the two. It's maybe not. Maybe those are gold foil there. I think these are all gold foil. Anyways, there probably needs to be some differentiation on the gold foil to make a much more blingy or noticeable difference between the versions. We'll have to see how that works itself out in the design. Obviously, like I said, we have some time before this set is released. But what I want you to notice here is the images here. Look at the Crore, the Nomos, and the Kron. Just look at the art themselves, because Nate has taken the feedback around skins to heart, and we're already seeing skins being planned for Rebellion. Let's take a look. Just look at these cards and look at this next set of cards, right? So you have a different color Kron, essentially. You have like this visor here on Nomos. You have a different kind of color on Crore. So they're kind of like the same base image with slight modifications. Now, I honestly am not sure how I feel about this. I don't know if I would really look to purchase or acquire skins if they're going to be just such minor modifications. Like if you just change a Kron from a white armor from a red armor, I'm not going to pay for that. Like the old skins for betas, right? They changed the entire look of the card and gave it a whole new flavor or theme. And for me, I thought that was unique and interesting. This, honestly, to me, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if my Nomos has a visor or not. I'm not going to pay more for that personally, but it might be fun for some people. Like if you can go into a voucher store or something and just spend vouchers to do that, maybe some people would do that. I don't know. I mean, based on what I'm seeing here, like this Crore, I still can't pronounce that, but I mean, the difference between it being green and yellow, I mean, honestly, I don't care. Maybe others do, but just the whole point though, Nate did take feedback from the community around skins and is looking at a way to do it and incorporate it. So it again shows that the team is listening to us and trying to accommodate the community's wants here, which is good. Let's see, player avatars, right? So like if you look at my in-game avatar, I just have the Splinterlands symbol because I don't like any of the current avatars. But now what they're saying here is you're going to have a way to show off your personality by customizing your own player avatar, your battle mage. There's going to be different races and different customizations of face, hair, nose, ears, and outfit. So, this has probably been a long while coming, but it looks like it's going to be available in the game in the future. We'll see how it is implemented, but having that option is definitely nice to be able to customize your avatar. Again, it's not a nice to have thing, or excuse me, not a must have thing, but it's nice to have. And it's been mentioned on town halls, and the team's taking that inputs and are putting some effort into making that a reality. So, I think that's a nice kind of quality of life type feature. Again, would I pay like a lot of money for that? Not really. I mean, it doesn't matter if I have a generic Splinterlands symbol or this elf symbol. I mean, for me, not really. I mean, I don't really. I mean, it's nice, but it's not something I'm going to dish out a lot of money for. But it's a nice quality of life feature or option. So this was interesting too. Another thing that was talked about on many town halls, for better or for worse, is comics for Splinterlands. And there is Splinterlands Cutthroat, a digital comic, Q4 release for issue 1. I mean, this isn't for me, obviously. I mean, this is not something that I'm necessarily going to get into or be excited about. But again, they've taken input from the community on the town halls and they've made it a reality. It's coming in Q4. So a digital comic of Splinterlands, similar to the YouTube series for the lore, you're now going to have another way to consume Splinterlands lore and stories, if that's of interest to you, which is I think it's good. I mean, building that brand is not a bad thing, and it doesn't seem to be taking up any necessarily assets or time from the Splinterlands core team. If they're kind of spinning this off and having contractors and other people do this, so that's fine. That's another thing that's happening. And then we've also got, man, it's crazy. So we've got Splinterlands plushies, Splinterlands miniatures. Now you've got a Splinterlands RPG, which is like a, I guess it's what, a D20 RPG, kind of open source system that they're created. And it's already starter sets, I think it's almost ready to go. You've got a QR code there with character backgrounds, subclasses, magical items, spells, feats, etc. Again, not my cup of tea. My days of rolling dice are probably behind me, probably well behind me. So it's not going to be something that I'm going to be doing. But if it brings in other people to Splinterlands, maybe that are traditional role-playing players, this could be interesting. Again, it doesn't seem like they're necessarily spending a lot of effort or time to make this happen. It's just kind of added to the plate of stuff they've got going on. And yeah, so that's also happening. And then it was also announced they're I don't have a picture of it, but they're doing like a card game, a physical card game as well with Splinterlands, which is kind of like a basic game. It seemed like they compared it to Uno. I forget the name. It was like Mana Burst or something. I forget what it was. But that's coming out as well. So if you're a board game player or a card game player, now you're going to have that way to get potentially exposed to Splinterlands. So this stuff is really exploding. There's a lot going on. Whether it's your cup of tea or not, will depend. But it's definitely going to reach different audiences that Splinterlands normally wouldn't reach. So again, you got to be, well, you can take it two ways. You're going to be either very impressed by all the things that are going on outside of Splinterlands, or you might be frustrated to say, hey, just focus on the game dummies and work on that. And I think I think they've shown, the Splinterlands team has shown, hey, we can do multiple things. We can walk and chew bubblegum here. Give us the opportunity to bring in new players, get new markets and new people exposed to Splinterlands and our brand, and good things will happen over time. Let's see. But you've got to be at least, you got to be impressed by the amount of stuff that's going on here in the Splinterlands branding area. It also shows as well that the team is listening to what you say on town halls. So I would just say, please note that. Please do not say any more dumb ideas out there to distract with stuff that's nonsense. But obviously all these seem to be good ideas and they've been taken up. But I would hopefully we don't have people just spouting nonsense and then sending Splinterlands down rat holes that we don't need to go down. But I digress. We've got lore.splinterlands.com that's coming soon. which is pretty exciting, going into more of the lore details from the creative team, the story writing, the background, the history around Splinterlands, the universe, and the land. And it directly led into the land discussion, because when we're developing land, it's not just about the plots of land. It physically has to exist somewhere in the Splinterlands universe, and if they're building a new continent or land of Pretoria to work with, you'd like to have some history and some geography and some stories to go with it to make it meaningful. Otherwise, it's just kind of a random map of stuff, right? And this lore.splinterlands.com is a way to start to build some of that. And it's pretty impressive. Again, I was very impressed to see how much progress had been made conceptually here. You can see here, just look at the detail. This is amazing. This is something you would see like in a D&D kind of expansion set here, with the detailed maps and naming and just the thought process around this. Like who designed this? Who thought of this? Like, how much time would this take? You can see here the different continents, the timeline, the world. We're just talking about Pretoria here, and you've got a number of other continents here that we haven't even explored yet. So the vision here is pretty impressive, and the scale is also very impressive. I mean, yeah, you got to give a hats off to Nate and team. They're just doing some amazing things here in concept that they're sharing. And you can see here they've got the lowlands documented, and the different areas in the lowlands, and the map where it falls, some of the history around it. And all this is going to matter, because if you're a landholder, you're going to get a random location in Pretoria, and depending on how things are unfolding in the game, like there might be an area of Pretoria you want your land to be in, like maybe the lowlands because you like that from a lore perspective, or maybe you're more interested in the wild northeast as an example. Maybe that's your preferred location for your plot of land, or maybe it's the shimmering coasts. I mean, looks pretty cool. Or maybe it's the broken lands. So it's pretty impressive where the amount of detail they've already put into this. And I'm excited to explore lore.splinterlands.com. I mean, I own land, and I'm going to really want to understand, if I had a choice as the land is being unveiled and things are being discovered, there's going to be probably times where I'm going to want to unveil my land based on kind of where land is currently being opened up at, based on some of this lore, because, well, it's interesting, and it adds another layer to the game, which is pretty exciting. And then you've got the updated card market, which incorporates the tech modernization of the non-card market here, where you've got other items, and this is the land section here. And look at the filters here. You've got the type of land. Is it occupied? I don't know what the kingdom is specifically. You've got geography types, you've got magical types, natural types. Look at the detail here. You've got hills, badlands, forest, plains, lakes, occupied lands, buildings on the land, circulation, location, coordinates, the region, the tract. I mean, there's been a lot of planning and thought here already happening around land. So it's very exciting. I mean, honestly, I at least from a UX perspective, they're a lot further than I had anticipated them being. And again, we don't see everything that's going on behind the scenes. Splinterlands is a very transparent company, but I don't think anyone really could have imagined that we would be where we are, at least from this side of the UX. It's very impressive. Now, all the coding behind it is going to be how they incorporate it into the blockchain and make it all work. And the game mechanics, that's probably also just as big or bigger of a challenge to tackle, rather than just mocking up a screen and putting some generic text in there. But this definitely is promising for land. And I would say that the UX is a lot further along than I would have guessed myself, which is very encouraging. You can see here they talked about how they changed the land from like a card perspective, and they modified it to more like a deed attribute. And you can see here, this shows you what a generic like hills might look like from a NFT perspective in the game. It shows you, how you can buy the land, if it has a building on it, its rarity, the resource generation per day, the owner, the level, the building, its region, its territory, its coordinates. I'm sure if you have a building on here, like a sawmill, it'll, add the picture of the building like we see here to the land. It's pretty impressive. Like I don't know of any other game. Like I'm not really following Axie's land development, for example, but this seems pretty advanced, and I gotta say it looks pretty good as well. We'll see how the game mechanics work, but this looks very promising for land in Splinterlands here. And then you've got the detailed. I think this is a region mapping, if I recall correctly. I'm not exactly sure, but it kind of shows you the different types of plots of lands in a region. I guess this is a castle here, and this is kind of a mapping of your region. For example, if you had it all unveiled at once and together. You see here there's a lot of green, a lot of plains, but there are some water, looks like some desert or mountains and other things here. We'll see what the strategy is, if you have a tract or region, if it makes sense to unveil it all at once in one location, or if it makes sense to individually kind of part it out and spread it around. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff here. Again, here you can see the different filters of the different land types, and they actually went into each one of these specifically. Here's what a Badlands looks like. Here's the type of buildings that you can build there. There's none on this particular land plot, but you can build a quarry, a rock yard, and a scriptorium and an arcanum. I think the scriptorium and arcanum can be built on any plot of land, and things like the quarry and the rock yard are land type specific. From a resource perspective. Now here I have a blank page. Here we have lakes. So lakes can have a farm or a silo, and that's kind of the lake image that we have to work with. Here's a river, which is different than a lake, and it has a farm, a silo, or a sawmill as an option here. And then you've got a mountain, which has a mine and a refinery as building options. And then you have a desert, which has a quarry and a rock yard. Again, the art looks very good. I'm sure this will be generic, but it's still customizable based on your buildings. Then you have a canyon with a quarry and a rock yard as an option. And then you have a more in-depth map here. Again, another view of the non-card market and how to drill down and find plots of land based on location. Very impressive. I gotta say, I was surprised by the amount of detail and now granted, all these might just be mock-ups in UX designs and not actually, they could just be prototypes that are easy to develop and not actually functional, but that's fine. They can plug in the filters and other things behind the scenes. But this seems very good. Now, I mean, I work in IT and I'm very familiar with UX, so I know how easy it is to mock something up and kind of do like vaporware. But at the same time, there's seems to be a lot of thought behind the UX, and again, they should be able to plug this in. So it's very exciting.
That's entertainment.